Hi guys. Um, I just did a video about an intro video, so if you haven't watched that, go ahead and watch it now. Again, I will not be editing this video, so there's gonna be a lot of ums and a lot of stammering and a lot of, you know, interruptions. Well, not interruptions, but like noise interruptions because I live in a full house with my 5 children and my parents and my dogs. So if I get a little interrupted, that's why. Today I'm talking about J.K. Rowling and her issues and the fights that she's having with Stephen King, and his issues. Um, the thing is that what some people don't realize is that J.K. Rowling has always been an awful human being. She sort of put it under a veneer of, I'm a progressive person who believes in anti-fascism, and this is what my book is about, fighting against anti-fascism. Turns out that she is, in fact, the fascist. So, um, and it has sort of this infamous dialogue with Donald Trump, who is our president of the United States, or rather, my president of the United States, if you're from a different country, and and people sort of lauded her as sort of like a progressive social warrior, and she really isn't. And then you have her versus Stephen King and his issues of being passively racist, and and just being sort of like thinking that he could just sort of rest on his laurels as being sort of, white cis straight man who's happened to be rich, and that if he just sort of like plays the part enough that he can be sort of patted on the back, which we did because Stephen King is a titan in the publishing industry. But like first and foremost, I want to start with J.K. Rowling and her laundry list of issues. I'm not going to get into all of it, but I think the biggest thing for me was the Dumbledore thing and sort of like, oh, he's gay. But he's been dead in your canon for like a year at that point. The Robert Gilrath thing, which is Robert Gilrath was the creator of gay conversion therapy. No, that is not confidential because she actually came out, I think, last week, stating that she's in favor of gay conversion therapy. Um, we could talk about her anti-Semitism, the goblins. Someone brought that up during my live, but also the one Jewish character. I think his last name is Goldstein, and how she basically didn't reference any of the stuff from Jewish culture, like his yarmulke or his bar mitzvah or him going kosher, just like the little stuff to sort of really add in that he's a Jewish person. Did none of that. I talked about in my live, but I'm gonna talk about again about how Hermione is conveniently black. Like she sort of wanted a pattern of black because Hermione, she didn't sort of list Hermione's skin tone at all. And so, when Harry Potter and the Cursed Child came out, she sort of took credit for, oh, Hermione is black. But what she did was sort of like do revisionist history and, took a loophole that she didn't do and sort of patted herself on the back for racial inclusion. I could talk about all day about how the black indigenous people of color in her book don't have any history backgrounds, don't have any house affiliations, except for maybe the ones that are already listed in the book. I mean, we know nothing about Kingsley Shacklebolt, and he is supposed to be the Minister of Magic. We know nothing about him. We know nothing about the Patel twins, other than that they're Gryffindors and Ravenclaw. We know nothing about Dean Thomas and his history. So, yeah. Also, if she wanted to add queer representation, the easiest way would have been Dean Thomas and Sean. Is this Sean? Shane, Sean, I think it's Sean Finnegan. It's been a while since I read the books. Both of the actors who played them were very supportive of that ship, and it could have been very easy to make them go canon. She didn't do that, and then you now add in the sort of Robert Garratt thing, which is her taking the name from the guy who committed gay conversion therapy, and that is not a really great thing. Um, so there's a laundry list. And then she came out really strongly this year about her turfness, which is trans exclusive radical feminist, or basically anti-trans feminists. We can discuss if they really are feminists or not, because I don't think they are, but that's the name. And that she really sort of started off by liking tweets, and then her PR people said, oh, she had a senior moment, she did it on accident, which that was bullshit. We saw that. But then she came out more strongly in the last 2 or 3 months, by actually tweeting out turf ideology and turf talking points on her own Twitter. And so that led to the cast of both Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which was already problematic for various reasons about race and about, just about race and about, all of that, and the indigenous stuff and Alvermani and all that good stuff. So that was already problematic. But both cast members, both lead cast members from both have come out against her. My favorite person who came out against her, the person who played Cho Chang, she came out and she said, well, this is how I feel about how I played Cho Chang, because there's some controversy about the name, which is sort of like John Smith, rather, like in Korean, or it's like one is Korean, one is Chinese, and it doesn't make any sense unless, the whole naming thing. So, Katie, I think her name is Katie Chung, came out and said, oh, support trans women charities underneath, which was really like the greatest thing. Like, why don't you support, this is how I feel, and then like a link to the trans charities and stuff. So I was like really excited about that. I just, what's hilarious about J.K. Rowling is that she did this whole book series about fighting anti-fascism and bigotry, and in the end she became what she supposedly despised. So, and she did that herself through the power of words. And so the irony upon top of ironies on top of ironies there. I also want to really talk about Stephen King. So Stephen King is also had many infamous sort of duels with Donald Trump, supposed to be really progressive. Turns out that he has racism problem in his own books, the lack of diversity for one thing, the magical Negro trope that's like in Green Mile and a couple other of his books, the lack of diversity in his adaptions. And I know for that he doesn't have power over that, although he did a recent reboot of The Shining. So he did, and he produced that one because he didn't like The Shining. It actually fell, or rather flopped really hard. So, but I didn't hear a lot of diversity about that. So yeah, and then he has, and then also like J.K. Rowling, he has had some dust ups on Twitter, using ghetto to describe horror, which ghetto is always a dog whistle for Black people. He has no right to use that because it really just sort of when he says ghetto, to me it means horror is the black people of, you know, literary stuff. I could say, well, romance is always sitting at the back of the bus. I can say that because I'm black. He does not have the right to say that because he's white. He's the oppressor, so he doesn't have the right to say that. And then, um, but I think for me, the nail in the coffin for him was um, his talk about diversity. He said when there was the Oscars, why the Oscars are so white controversy, our Oscars hashtag Oscars so white. Um, he said something to the effect that it should always be the quality of a film and not the diversity. Which, again, if you know anything about the entertainment industry, period, I'm not even talking about publishing, but the entertainment industry is run by cis, straight, white people. And so to say that is disingenuous because the people who are running the show are, by, you know, every data that we've gotten, are cis white people. There's still a huge white supremacy problem and patriarchy problem in publishing. And for you to ignore that when you have everything laid out your feet, you're rich and you're white and you're have so much opportunity to pay people to educate you, to take courses, to buy all the books you want to buy. You have every opportunity to educate yourself on how to be anti-racist, and yet you keep coming up with these racist talking points. So that's my aggravation with Stephen King. And I don't think he even apologized. And I'm like, and I said this best on Twitter, but I'm gonna say this again. I find it funny that these titans of, you know, the publishing world, especially, you know, in the entertainment industry, are fucking destroying their own legacies on Twitter by their own words, which is an irony. I can't even get fully into how much that is ironic to me. So you have I'm gonna take a break. So you have JKR Rowling, who's problematic, Stephen King, who's problematic, and they're dueling it out about trans people. And so, you know, because J.K. Rowling started with a tweet about domestic assault. They had a lot of turf dog whistles in it. And then, and so, but because, because, because Stephen King didn't really think into it, he sort of, at first, you know, supported her and retweeted it. And then someone said, are you ever going to address her turfness? Which is her in her turf tweets. And he says, of course, trans women are women. And immediately when he did that, she deleted the tweets that she did thanking him for supporting her and her message about domestic assault, domestic violence, and basically sort of unfollowed him and acted, it showed her entire ass. So you know, people are like lauding Stephen King, which someone said just because May, who is a friend of mine on Twitter, said just because he says trans women are women doesn't necessarily excuse him from trans misogyny, which is true. And May is also a trans woman, so I actually will take her word for it over his word for it. So it's just like a mess. Just trash people destroying other trash people, and there's no one to root for. It's like Game of Thrones. There's no one to root for. Everyone's a horrible person. So all you can do is just like grab some popcorn and watch. And that's what I did this week. I'm like, I'm not going to, you know, pat Stephen King on the back because he's trash this way. So I'm just gonna watch it and let it go the way it's supposed to go. Or and um and I'm like, for me personally, what I want fans of both to realize is that they're both garbage people and that you need to hold them accountable and you need to hold their feet to the fire. And just because Stephen King says trans women are women doesn't excuse him from his racism. And just because um, JK Rowling is a philanthropist, I can't speak today, philanthropist? Just because JK Rowling gives money to charities all the time does not excuse her for her laundry list of problematic um, actions and speech. So basically, my opinion at the end of the day is just trash people taking out other trash people, and we're just gonna see how the dust settles. And I'm sorry if I'm talking fast because I'm just trying to get it all out of my brain into the video, into the world. So sorry. But yeah, that's my opinion. I am going to be doing these videos every Wednesday right after I do my lives. So you should check that out and again, check the bell notification so you can be notified every time I do this. Um, I still don't, I'm still sort of like, should I do YouTube? Should I do Daily Motions or Vimeo? I think I might have to go to YouTube because I am poor. So if you want to make me less poor, please check me out on Patreon and, give as little as like $1. Every little penny that I get is appreciated. I will be doing shout outs on these videos every week. So, shout out, so please go ahead and become a patron today. And I think that's it. I'm going to go ahead and feed my kids because they're just getting up because it's summer, so they're sleeping pretty late. And I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.